Welcome back, you guys. NBA history tells us that an NBA front office will usually side with their best player over a head coach in a situation where one of them has to be off the team. There's a lot of players who have gotten their coaches fired, but I decided on these specific 5 players because there's a lot of interesting stories with these 5 guys. So don't rage in the comment box saying, "Oh, you forgot this player, you idiot, you know nothing about basketball." I just decided to make this list 5 players only, with only these guys, so let's go into the first one. The first player on my list has to go to Dwight Howard for his treatment towards Stan Van Gundy, and just for this one particular moment. You guys remember that awkward interview when Stan Van Gundy basically admitted that the rumors of Dwight Howard trying to get him fired were true. Then literally seconds later, Dwight comes up to him, awkwardly puts his arm around him, and says the rumors aren't true, even though Stan just said the rumors were true a second ago. Van Gundy was literally told by the management of the Magic that Dwight wanted him out, and Dwight lied and denied it. And eventually Stan, along with the GM, got fired because Dwight told team officials that if he's going to stay in Orlando, you have to fire Stan. So the Magic think everything is going good, but Dwight decided to do another Dwight thing and asked out of Orlando that summer in 2012. He demanded the Magic front office to trade him to the Lakers. When Linsanity happened, the Knicks were on a roll, winning multiple games in a row. The offense was scoring efficiently, and even the defense wasn't looking too bad. Also at this time, Carmelo Anthony was injured. Once Melo came back, they lost their first 6 games in March, and D'Antoni started to get a lot of blame. And Melo was a little bit salty that Lin was getting this crazy love at the Garden. He became the face of the team in like 2 games. In an interview last year when Amari Stoudemire was on the Heat, he basically says that not many people were a fan of Lin's rise, so he didn't stay on the team the next season, and we all know he's talking about Melo without saying his name, and I'll back that up with more reports. ESPN did a huge story on Melo about this that I'll put in the description, where they interviewed a bunch of Knicks players who were quoted anonymously that said Melo's dream of being the man in New York was taken from him by this random point guard from Harvard. Now that I gave you some background on the Lin situation, let me enter D'Antoni into the equation and break it simply without going on too long. D'Antoni said in an interview that Carmelo Anthony rejected his offensive system, and in another interview on Yahoo Sports podcast, D'Antoni straight up said that there was a team-wide resentment of Lin. It never was a secret that Carmelo and D'Antoni never got along. At one point during one of the games before he resigned, he didn't sit in the team huddle and sat off to the side alone. D'Antoni resigned on March 15th and was replaced by Mike Woodson. It is the 1996-1997 season for the Magic. Shaq has gone to the Lakers. The Magic are 24-25 through 49 games of the season, and star player Penny Hardaway is fed up with the team's play and he wants a change. Hardaway had issues with head coach Brian Hill's offense, and it quickly became obvious to the Orlando Magic's front office that to keep their best ball handler, scorer, and elite assist man, they had to cut loose with him and find another coach that would make their best player happy. The beginning of the end for Hill was an argument when him and the point guard Brian Shaw in February of 1997, and this is reported by the Orlando Sentinel. Hardaway decided to call a players-only meeting after that argument. Hardaway made a case to the players and had a team vote for either stay or go for Coach Hill. All 13 players, every single one, voted yes for a coaching change, and Penny personally called the Magic GM to let him know what just happened in the meeting. Brian Hill was fired days later. In an article with the Orlando Sentinel in 2002, Coach Hill says he hadn't spoken to Penny in 5 years. Power forward Horace Grant regrets not speaking up for Coach Brian Hill when Penny was trying to get him fired, and it was one of his regrets as a player. Grant says, in quote, "If there's one guy on this planet who got a raw deal, it's Brian Hill." But this is sort of similar to the Carmelo Anthony situation with Mike D'Antoni. If your highest paid players, players with the most influence, players who are bringing the fans to the arena, if they disagree with your coaching style and how you are managing the team, history tells us that the organization is going to side with the player almost every single time. When Deron Williams was with the Jazz, he straight up did not want to be coached by Jerry Sloan. Let me post these screenshots just so I can quickly sum up how much Williams resented Jerry Sloan. A Jazz physician who was a doctor for the Jazz at the time said Deron Williams decided he didn't need coaching. A Jazz team doctor at the time also said Deron Williams could not handle Jerry Sloan calling plays. So basically, Deron Williams wanted to call the shots, not listen to Jerry Sloan, and that was the driving force between the split. Even though he was a legendary coach who came close to 2 championships in the 90s, Williams had absolutely zero respect for him. Former Jazz CEO said in an interview that Sloan and Williams got into an argument during a game at halftime, and Sloan told Deron Williams, "Do you want me to quit right now?" But Sloan was never fired. He resigned on his own mid-season in 2011 and told the team's owner, "I'm out of gas. I've been at this a long time and there's nothing left in the tank." Even though they made back-to-back NBA Finals appearances together, Byron Scott and Jason Kidd never got along too well. When Scott was still the head coach of the Lakers, he told reporters at a random shoot-around that Jason Kidd was kind of an a-hole. But let's travel back to 2004 when Jason Kidd was the point guard and Byron Scott was the coach. The Nets were 22-20 at the time, and it wasn't looking like they were going to go to the NBA Finals for a third straight season. Jason Kidd ended up being fed up with Scott and wanted him out. There have been multiple inside sources from many news sites, including the New York Times, that said Kidd put lots of pressure on the front office to fire Byron Scott, and he was eventually fired and replaced by Lawrence Frank. And that's the end of my video for the NBA players who got coaches fired. And if you made it this far to the end of the video and liked even one thing about it, make sure to leave a like before you click off. It really helps my channel grow. So I'll see you guys in the next upload.